I don't think that Marathon's ranked mode is bad. I think it launched 6 months before it was ready, and now it's got a reputation it's going to spend the rest of this season and probably next season trying to shake. Now, I don't think the concept of ranked in an extraction shooter is stupid, not at all, but I think it's very hard to actually make. I think there's a lot of people who would say the only way you win in an extraction shooter is if you're the only team to exfil, and if you die, then you just de-rank. You know, someone can rat in the corner for 15 minutes. Maybe they're holding on to a key, wait for everybody else to get out or kill each other, and then go do that and extract and get a ton of points and level up. Someone else can wipe 3 teams and then die on their way to the extract or something, or die to bots because they don't have any heals left. So who played better? The genre doesn't really have a clear answer to that. So Bungie built ranked around loot value extracted. The more valuable your haul, the more rank points you earn. You can defeat enemy runners, take their holo tags, and raise your ceiling even higher. You can bring better gear to access higher stakes lobbies. It's extraction logic applied to a competitive progression, and on paper that does work, but then it launched. I think there's a couple of reasons as to why Marathon's ranked mode doesn't reach its potential, and that includes holo tags and scheduling. And we're going to talk about a lot of that in this video. But if you want to stay up to date with Marathon content, make sure you subscribe. If you agree with this video, make sure you leave a like on it, hype it up if you're on mobile, and let me know if you are grinding ranked. I personally am probably just going to stop at Gold 1 just because I want the Destroyer skin, and I don't think that I have enough time to get to Diamond 1 for the Bully skin, but it does look good. Alright, so the holo tag problem might be at the center of all of this. You got to bring one into every ranked match. It sets your score target, your loss penalty, your overperformance capacity. These are 3 different things just tied to one item. And then it combines with your teammates' holo tags, and that makes a crew total and determines everything that happens in your run, pretty much. You also have a gear score that you need to clear. 3,000 for low stakes, and I believe it's 10,000 for high stakes. And those first few weeks, people were really confused and trying to figure out how the best way to go about all of this was. Do I just bring in the lowest amount of gear? That way, if I get wiped out, it's not that big of a deal. Do I take the gold, bronze, whatever holo tags and go from there? Do I try to play safe? Do I try to risk it all and try to get everybody's high stakes tags? This was like bringing out calculators and people taking this like it was the SATs. Or actually, I think the mode was designed to feel like high-stakes gambling with a risk and a reward. But really, to me, what it felt like was doing tax returns, and it just wasn't that fun, especially in the first few weeks. And I just started playing like the regular modes and the experimental modes. Like, I would much rather play duo queue than queue into rank at that point. Now, if you remember the scheduling issue, Cryo Archive and Ranked overlapped, and I think that that was pretty silly. You know, both of these game modes or playlists wanted your best gear. They overlapped. They were forcing people to choose what to do. I believe that the game director also said that there are likely some of those who cannot participate, which I guess is a way of saying that your schedule kind of locked you out if you worked weekends or had family stuff planned. But Bungie did move on it pretty quickly, and they split the schedules. And Cryo Archive shifted to Thursday through Sunday, and Ranked runs Sunday through Thursday. So that was a smart decision. I think some people will also disagree with that. I personally feel like Ranked should be just available all the time, even if it does overlap with Cryo. I think having it available, you know, like there are people who don't want to play Cryo and stuff like that. I just feel like it would be smarter to have it always available. You know, these are both in-game content, I would say, and having them in the same window at that point, the same gear pool. I don't know why they thought that having them overlapping at the exact same time would be fine, but it was not. But they fixed that. Another huge issue has been the cheater problem, and you're probably going to see this more from content creators, streamers, and stuff like that than just the regular person, but you know, by week 2, people were really starting to notice that there were some high-level cheaters playing in all these lobbies with streamers, you know, stream sniping and stuff like that as well. And while I do feel like that really does hit like the highest of the high-level players, you know, people that are up in Pinnacle and stuff like that, Bungie has got to figure out the cheating thing. You know, you create this mass psychosis with streamers and YouTubers and content creators constantly talking about it in their videos and streams and tweeting about it. And then normal players see this and then they get scared that there are cheaters out, and then they just start blaming every time they die on cheaters. You know, people pre-firing through walls or hitting shots, you know, through the fog. And I've even seen people in voice chat, you know, clips say that they were cheating. And that ruins a game. Like, cheating literally ruins a game, especially in this ranked mode. And especially in an extraction shooter where I haven't seen anybody have their gear refunded. The way that you report someone also is just crazy. You gotta like exit the match, go to recent players, find that specific person, report them from the menu. There's no in-match option. You know, Cruiser made an obvious point: if a cheater kills you, takes your gear, you should get that gear back. There's no refund system at this point, and that's a huge problem. You know, Bungie has put out statements saying there's zero tolerance for cheaters, there's permabans, they're expanding detection, iterating on reporting tools, but I think the damage has been done and people have left the game mode because of that already. I also think that Bungie even said something, I'll have to try to find like the exact quote, but I remember somebody saying that stream sniping is a pain point, especially in ranked. And like, that's a developer describing a problem that I don't think that they have an idea on how to fix at this point. You know, it's kind of simple to me sometimes because you play ranked on one map, you know, one of the 3 maps that it's available on every week. It's the same map the entire time for ranked that week. Streamers typically play with their public names. You know, there's like a prox chat exploit right now where you can see who's all in your match and stuff like that. So it's easy for someone who is playing ranked to see who they're with and stuff, and then just go to a Twitch stream and watch that streamer and where they're at. And in this mode where you steal someone's holo tag and that's how you know, climb ranked, why wouldn't people do everything that they can to get as much information as they can to win? Now, obviously, like having it rotate maps and stuff like that, I think would be a help, but then you don't know what gear to bring in. You know, you might have a different loadout for Dire Marsh than you do for Outposts. So maybe it's not so simple to solve. I know other people have also requested like a solo ranked playlist, and I don't think that that is on the roadmap at all. I have seen pro Halo players like Lucid go into ranked solo, you know, without crew fill on and just absolutely destroy teams, but, you know, he is an outlier. You have like one of the best video game players on the planet going in, and you just can't replicate that. I mean, I definitely can't. But maybe if the, you know, game had a higher population, a solo, a duo, and the trios, ranked modes would be something that they could look at, but at this point, I don't think that you can split the player base up even more. So you either bring your own team in, or you do crew fill and you get match made with strangers, and, you know, yeah, that is a toss-up because I've had people in ranked not use mics or anything like that, just run off by themselves. There's no communication. And honestly, even if you play a team that is quote-unquote worse than you know, they have a lower skill ceiling or whatever, if they're communicating even the teeniest tiny bit compared to your team, you're probably going to get destroyed. Like, communication is such a big thing in gaming, especially in like these ranked modes, that people really don't get it. You know, a coordinated pre-made and 3 strangers who just met and one doesn't have a mic or are not even using a headset at that point, it's just not the same thing. But they're in the same pool playing for the same ranked points. I know that Bungie was messing around with, you know, a matchmaking thing where microphones, if you were using a mic, it would match you with other people using a mic, and I feel like that should just be the default no matter what. So we'll see what happens with that. You know, there's a lot of issues with ranked at this point. It's hard to take it seriously. But maybe that's what they intended. Maybe it's not supposed to be serious. You know, maybe cryo is supposed to be the real in-game content. Like, the frustrating thing to me is that the mode isn't broken at its core. I think the concept with like the holo tags and gear antes and stuff like that figured out a way to like tie your rank ceiling to PvP engagement, and that gave people a reason to fight instead of just looting and hiding. I think that the bones are there, but the way it's shipped, you know, with the lack of anti-cheat working, before there was like a real in-match reporting process, before stream sniping protections were ready. You know, clearly the schedule didn't make sense. Scoring system is so complicated that, you know, Bungie had to put out a plan for people showing how to actually play, and I don't think that that's great. Now, they're patching things fast. I think that they are paying attention, but the issue is it's a live service game, and first impressions will stick. You know, there's a ton of streamers and stuff who have left that said that, you know, I'm leaving because ranked is terrible, the cheaters are everywhere, it's unfixable, and people are seeing that and running with it. So the gap, to me, between a good idea and something that's actually ready to put out can be very wide, and Marathon's ranked mode is living in that gap, for better or for worse. But I hope they figure it out, and soon. You know, they haven't really said anything about Season 2, and if there were going to be changes to ranked for that. You know, we have a new map variant coming out with Dire Marsh at night. I've heard rumors that that map is way more PvE focused, so I don't know if it's going to be added into the ranked rotation, or if maybe like people who aren't as good at the PvP side of things will be able to queue this Dire Marsh at nighttime, and there's only like 2 other teams on the map because there's so much PvE enemies. If they're going to be more apt to try that week, I don't know. I will say that I do have fun playing ranked, and when it goes away and I'm just like playing regular matches, it kind of just feels more empty. You know, I like playing competitive playlists and stuff like that, you know, Halo and stuff. I like to try to reach Onyx and stuff. I want to get the rewards and things like that, and I feel like they're close, but there's just, you know, a few things that they need to figure out. If you have any suggestions, I would love to read them in the comments. Maybe Bungie will see them as well. Maybe we'll make a video of, you know, the most requested or the smartest solutions for ranked in Marathon going forward. But that's going to do it for the video, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like down below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.